Good afternoon, sir. I will be presenting my paper on implicit terrorist networks, a two-mode social network analysis of terrorism in India. Terrorism has been a significant threat to the safety and security of India for many years. India has experienced numerous terrorist attacks that have resulted in loss of life, damage to property. The threat of terrorism in India is complex and diverse, with many different groups and individuals involved. Understanding terrorist networks is critical for developing effective counterterrorism strategies. Terrorist networks operate in a clandestine manner, making it difficult to identify and dispute their activities. Network analysis provides a useful framework for studying the structure and dynamics of terrorist networks. The purpose of this paper is to apply a two-mode social network analysis approach to study terrorist network in India. Especially, I aim to identify implicit networks that are not easily visible using traditional network analysis methods. By comparing the result of the two-mode approach with the traditional one-mode approach, I can gain a better understanding of the structure and dynamics of terrorist networks in India. This study has important implications for policymakers, law enforcement agencies, and researchers who are interested in combating terrorism in India. Coming to literature review, the study of terrorist network have been the subject of much research in recent years. Researchers have used various methods including social network analysis to study the structure and dynamics of these networks. Social network analysis is a powerful tool for studying terrorist networks. It provides a framework for analyzing the relationship between individuals and groups within the network. SNA has been used to identify the key players within the terrorist network, map the flow of information and resources within these networks, and identify potential vulnerabilities that can be exploited to disrupt their activities. Two-mode SNA is specialized technique that is particularly useful for studying terrorist networks. It allows researchers to analyze the relationships between two different types of entities, such as individuals and organizations within the same network. Previous studies have used SNA to study terrorist networks in various contexts. For example, researchers have used SNA to study the structure and dynamics of AI, CUDA, and other extremist groups. Other studies have focused on the role of social media in the recruitment and radicalization of individuals into terrorist networks. Overall, the literature on terrorist networks highlights the importance of using SNA to study these networks. Two-mode SNA is particularly useful technique for identifying implicit networks and understanding the relationship between different types of entities within the network. Coming to the methodologies, for this study, I collected data from multiple sources, including news reports, government reports, and social media. I used a combination of open source and proprietary tools to collect and process the data. I focused on terrorist incidents in India that occurred between 2010 and 2020. I only included incidents that were directly linked to terrorist groups operating in India. The two-mode social network analysis. I used a two-mode social network analysis approach to study terrorist networks in India. I constructed a two-mode network consisting of individuals and organizations involved in terrorist activities in India. I used the UCINET software package to perform the two-mode analysis. I employed the following measures to analyze the network. The first one is degree centrality. This measures the number of connections that an entity has with other entities in the network. Entities with higher degree centrality are more influential within the network. The second one is betweenness centrality. This measures the extent to which an entity acts as a bridge or intermediary between other entities in the network. Entities with higher betweenness centrality are more important for the flow of information and resources within the network. And the third one is eigenvalue centrality. This measures the extent to which an entity is connected to other entities that are also highly connected within the network. Entities with higher eigenvalue centrality are more influential in shaping the overall structure of the network. Coming to the limitations of this study, there are several limitations to my study. Firstly, my data sources were limited to publicly available information, which may not provide a complete picture of the terrorist network operating in India. Secondly, my study is limited to the period between 2010 and 2020, and the situation may have changed since then. Lastly, my study only analyzed one type of terrorist network, that is, those operating in India, and the findings may not be applicable to other contexts. Coming to the results, my two-mode social network analysis of terrorist networks in India revealed a complex and highly interconnected network. The network consists of 463 nodes, includes 296 individuals and 167 organizations, and 1,242 edges. The average degree of the nodes was 5.36, indicating a high connected network. I identified several key actors and subgroups within the network. At the individual level, I found that certain individuals had high degrees of certainty, indicating that they were well connected within the network. At the organization level, I found that some organizations were more influential than others in terms of their connections to other organizations and individuals. I also identified several subgroups within the network that were organized around specific geographical regions or ideological affiliations. For example, I found a subgroup that was focused on the Kashmir region and another subgroup that was affiliated with a particular extremist group. The discussion of the implementation of the results, my findings have important implementations for policymakers, law enforcement agencies, and researchers who are interested in combating terrorism in India. By identifying key actors and subgroups within the network, I can gain a better understanding of the structure and dynamics of terrorist networks in India. This information can be used to develop targeted strategies for disrupting the activities of these networks. Additionally, my findings suggested that two-modal social network analysis can be more powerful tool for studying terrorist networks. By analyzing the relationships between individuals and organizations within the same network, I can identify implicit networks that are not easily visible using traditional one-mode analysis. Overall, my results suggest that terrorist networks in India are highly interconnected and organized around specific geographic regions and ideological affiliations. Understanding these networks and their underlying structure is critical for developing effective counterterrorism strategies. Coming to the case studies, the first case study is 2008 Mumbai attacks. The 2008 Mumbai attacks were a series of coordinated terrorist attacks that occurred in Mumbai, India in November 2008. The attacks were carried out by a group of militants affiliated with Lashkar-e-Taiba (LET), a Pakistan-based terrorist group. My analysis of the network structure involved in the Mumbai attacks revealed a highly centralized network with LET at the center. The network consisted of several subgroups, each responsible for a specific aspect of the attack. For example, one subgroup was responsible for training the attackers, while other was responsible for logistics and communications. I also found that the attackers have limited direct contact with the LET leadership, suggesting that the network was highly compartmentalized. Coming to the case study 2, 2019 Pulwama attack. The 2019 Pulwama attack was a suicide bombing attack that occurred in Pulwama district, Jammu and Kashmir in February 2019. The attack was carried out by a member of Jaish-e-Mohammed, a Pakistan-based terrorist group. My analysis of the network structure involved in the Pulwama attack revealed a decentralization network with a diffuse organizational structure. Unlike the Mumbai's attacks, these were no clearly identifiable subgroups involved in the attack. Instead, the attacker had several direct and indirect links with JEM leadership and members. I also found that the attack was planned and executed by a small group of individuals who had limited connections to other members of the network. Comparison of network structures. The network structures for the two attacks differed in several ways. The Mumbai attack had a highly centralized network with a clear hierarchy and compartmentalization of responsibilities. In contrast, the Pulwama attack had a decentralized network structure with a diffuse organizational structure and limited compartmentalization of responsibilities. These findings suggest that terrorist networks in India may have different organizational structures depending on the nature of the attack and the terrorist group involved. Understanding the underlying network structure is critical for developing effective counterterrorism strategies that can dispute the activities of these networks. Coming to the discussion part, interpretation of the results in the context of literature review. My findings are consistent with previous studies that have used social network analysis to study terrorist networks. The use of two-mode social networks analysis allowed us to uncover implicit networks and identify key actors and subgroups within the network. These findings suggest that two-mode social network analysis can be a powerful tool for studying terrorist networks, particularly those with complex and diffuse organizational structures. Comparison of the findings to previous studies on terrorist networks. I have compared to previous studies on terrorist networks. My study provides a unique insight into the structure and dynamics of terrorist networks in India. While some previous studies have focused on individual terrorist groups or regions, my study provides a comprehensive analysis of the entire network of terrorist groups and individuals in India. My findings highlight the importance of considering the broader network context with analyzing terrorist activity. Coming to the limitations of the study and suggestions for the future research, one limitation of my study is that I relied on publicly available data, which may not be complete or accurate. Additionally, my study only analyzed the network structure and did not examine the underlying motivation or ideologies that drive terrorist activity. Future research could address these limitations by using a combination of qualitative and quantitative data sources to provide a more complete understanding of terrorist networks in India. Another area of future research is the use of network analysis to develop targeted strategies for disrupting terrorist activity. By identifying key actors and subgroups within the network, law enforcement agencies can develop targeted interventions that can dispute the activities of these networks. Additionally, future research could explain the use of network analysis in evaluating the effectiveness of counterterrorism strategies. Coming to the conclusion, my summary of the main findings. My study used two-mode social network analysis to examine the implicit terrorist network in India. My analysis revealed a complex and decentralized network structure with multiple subgroups and key actors that play a critical role in terrorism activities in India. In addition, I conducted case studies of two specific attacks, the 2008 Mumbai attack and 2019 Pulwama attack, which provided additional insights into the organization structure and dynamics of the network. Implications of the research for counterterrorism efforts. Understanding the organization structure and dynamics of terrorist networks is critical for developing effective counterterrorism strategies. My study provides valuable insights into the network structure of terrorism groups in India, which can inform the development of targeted interventions to disrupt their activities. By identifying key actors and subgroups within the network, law enforcement agencies can develop targeted interventions that can disrupt the activities of these networks. My final thoughts and recommendations for future research. Overall, my study highlights the importance of using social network analysis to study terrorism networks in India. While my study provides valuable insights, there are limitations to my analysis that suggest area of future research. For example, future research could explore the use of two-mode social network analysis to study the networks of specific terrorist groups or regions within India. Additionally, future research could use a combination of qualitative and quantitative data sources to provide a more comprehensive understanding of terrorist networks in India. Overall, insights for this research can help inform the development of effective counterterrorism strategies in India and other regions affected by terrorism. Thank you.